Hi everyone, this is Dr. Chhoda, and in this video I'll give you the latest status of the stimulus negotiations and what President Trump feels is essentially a con game by Nancy Pelosi when it comes to the United States Postal Service. Let's jump right in. This was a recent tweet from Jake Sherman over at Politico. And by the way, I talked about the Problem Solvers Caucus in a video yesterday, and I said we shouldn't really get our hopes up about that. And Jake Sherman actually said, and I think he put it better than me, he said, reminder, the Problem Solvers Caucus has yet to solve a problem. Mostly exists to give moderate Republicans and Democrats cover. And he also wrote, this is Jake Sherman, he said, they can talk to Meadows until they're blue in the face. Pelosi is a speaker and she makes decisions. I talked about this yesterday. In fact, if you watch my video, I said, until we see a selfie of Pelosi and President Trump, I don't think we're gonna get a solution to this. I'm smiling because I don't know what else to do in this situation. And Dean Phillips said the meeting between the White House Chief of Staff Meadows and Problem Solvers Caucus was very productive. Again, I wouldn't take too much stock into this. This is largely symbolic. I'm trying to give you the news that matters and the heart of the problem. That's what I've been trying to do on my channel. My name is Dr. Chhoda with Ignition Time. Thank you so much for watching. Please click like below. Please click subscribe if you appreciate the hard work and the effort that goes into the research, the filming, and the delivery of all of these videos. Okay, so let's jump right in. Now, the president, in an interview on Fox today, this was a phone-in interview, the president said, I quote, "This is a Nancy Pelosi con game." And he said, I fight for the nation. He also said universal mail-in votes are bad and absentee ballots are good. Now, we will explain the distinction between, in fact, I'll let the president explain it in his own words, the difference between universal mail-in votes and absentee ballots, and you'll hear the president explain it in his own words. But this is what happened during this interview. I'm going to break this down into two segments. The first segment is the interview actually asking President Trump about where the stimulus negotiations stand right now. And I quote, "Can you explain how you're sabotaging the Postal Service?" So the interview asked President Trump to explain his position on the Postal Service. And the interview also said, "We know that the Postal Service has not been efficient for decades. We know you hired a guy to try and streamline it and make it work better. But at the same time, fewer people are using the post office because we're doing email." And the Postal Service sent out a note saying, hey, different states have different requirements. So to this, the president responded. And I thought the president's response was very telling. And I will let you hear it directly from the president. But what I gathered from the president's comments was that the Postal Service has been losing a lot of money. The president said the post office has lost over almost $80 billion, $78 billion to be exact, over the past decade or so. And he said that we're not firing people. The president said that thing was run badly. This is not a Trump thing. This is one of the disasters of the world. The way it's been run horribly. So President Trump is saying that the post office was mismanaged and run very badly. By the way, both sides will agree to this, that as a business, the post office wasn't managed very well. And the president said, now what am I supposed to do? Let it continue to run badly? If you fix it, they say, oh, he's tampering with the election. These are the words of the president. And he said, no, we're not tampering. And this is what the president then said. First of all, absentee ballots like in Florida, those are good things. You send it back with your vote. Those are great things. Universal ballots, where they drop millions of ballots into a community, into a state like New Jersey, it's going to be a disaster. Look at Nevada, what's going on over there. And he said there's a disaster in New York as well. And he specifically talked about Paterson, New Jersey, Virginia. And he said they can't count the ballots. They just don't know where the ballot is. So the president is drawing a distinction between universal mail-in voting and absentee ballots. And I'll let you hear it from the president in his own words, and then you can judge for yourself. Let's roll the tape and watch this Fox interview. This is a phone-in interview with the president. Let's watch.
She says, you're messing up the post office. She sent a letter out to her colleagues, to the Democrats, that said, alarmingly, across the nation, we see the devastating effects of the president's campaign to sabotage the election by manipulating the Postal Service to disenfranchise voters. We know that the Postal Service has not been efficient for decades. And we know you hired a guy to try to streamline and make it work better. But at the same time, fewer people are using the post office because we're doing email for so many things. And, and the Postal Service sent out a note and said, hey, different states have different requirements. Some states, you can request a ballot 3 days before the election, and we don't know that we can get them the ballot and get it back in time. So can you explain how you are sabotaging the Postal Service?
Yeah, well, no, I'm just making it good. We have a very, very good business guy running it. And I want to make, I jokingly say, but it's true, I want to make the post office great again, okay? The post office lost $78 billion over a very short period of time. Think of it, over the last 10, 12 years, something like that. 78 billion with a B, billion. And we're making it so it is going to be good. And we're going to take care of our postal workers above all. We're not firing people, but the way they ran that thing for many years, this isn't a Trump thing. There was a big editorial by you-know-who over the weekend. This isn't a Trump thing. This has been one of the disasters of the world, the way it's been run. It's been run horribly, and we're going to make it good. Now, what am I supposed to do? Let it continue to run badly? So if you fix it, they say, oh, he's tampering with the election. No, we're not tampering. First of all, absentee ballots, like in Florida, those are great things. You send for it, you ask for it, they send it to you, you send it back with your vote. Those are great things. Universal ballots, where they drop millions of ballots into a community, into a state, like New Jersey is doing now. It's going to be a disaster. Look at Nevada, what's going on over there. It's going to be a disaster. No signature verification. You can bundle up. You can, they call it harvest. I mean, harvesting is illegal in most places, and they're letting you harvest. It's going to be a disaster. And just one thing, take a look at what happened in New York, disaster. Paterson, New Jersey, disaster. Virginia, disaster. It's a disaster what's going on. They can't count the ballots.
Now, in the second part of this interview, the president was asked specifically about how things are going, the negotiation with Nancy Pelosi, and the $25 billion and the $3.5 billion that the Democrats are asking for the United States Postal Service. And the interviewer specifically asked, is this another way of trying to get that big stimulus bill passed by the Democrats? And the president responded, these are the words of the president, it's a Nancy Pelosi con game with her associate Schumer. And he said many states have been run very, very badly. And he said they want $1 trillion to bail out their badly run states like New York State, which is horribly run, in the words of the president, like California. And he said Illinois is a disaster. And he talked about officials in Illinois doing a bad job. He said what she really wants more than anything in the world is to get $1 trillion for all the states from the American taxpayer to bail out people that are doing a bad job running those states and have been running badly for many years. And she said, in the end, Republicans are not looking for it. So basically, this is the main gridlock. As you know, there are three areas of gridlock: the extension of the federal unemployment benefits extension. And, the Republicans want individuals to get back to work. They don't want it to be so high that people are disincentivized to go back to work. State and local governments. And I have actually covered that on my channel today. I'm getting a little bit deeper into that so you guys can understand what that actually entails. And obviously, there is the post office, which I had predicted a week ago. That this would be the next big topic of conversation. And that's exactly what's happening now, because that's what most people are talking about. And it is a flashpoint. It is a huge area of contention. So getting back to the states, the president said they want to bail out Democratic run states that have been running badly. And he said, again, I quote the president, so instead of just accepting that, I fight for the nation. And then they do the phony number about the post office. And he said, we want it to run efficiently. We want it to look good. We want it to run for less money. Much better always take care of our postal workers. And I'll tell you the biggest problems, maybe the problem between the post office and Amazon. That is what the president talked about.
Do you think part of this is because Nancy Pelosi has been unable to get her very expensive, I think, $3.5 trillion coronavirus bill passed? But in that bill is $25 billion for the Postal Service to make sure they've got the resources. Although the Postal Service has put out in financial statements that they've got enough money to run through next year, summer of next year. So is this just another way of trying to get that great big Corona bill passed by the Democrats?
It's a Nancy Pelosi con game with her associate Schumer. This is a con game by Pelosi and Schumer. Look, the post office, there's $25 billion sitting there, but they really want $1 trillion to bail out their badly run states, like New York State, which is horribly run. Like if you take a look at California, the money they lose. Illinois is a disaster, just a disaster. This guy Pritzker has done a horrible job in Illinois, and it's run so badly. And they want to bail primarily those three plus some others. The Republican states are doing phenomenally well. Sure, they'll take money. One thing I can tell you, they'll always take it. But they're doing really, really well. So she really wants, what she wants more than anything in the world is to get $1 trillion from all of the states, from the American taxpayer, to bail out people that are doing a bad job running these states, that have been running badly for years, but running these states. And in the end, the Republicans aren't looking for it. The Democrats want it because it's New York State. It's virtually every one of them. I would say every one of them, but virtually every one of them. They want to bail out Democratic-run states that have been running badly, but they want the whole nation to do it. So instead of just accepting that, I fight for the nation. And then they do the number, the phony number about the post office. The post office, we want to make it run efficiently, run good. We want it to run for less money, much better, always taking care of our postal workers. And I'll tell you the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems, maybe the biggest problem with the post office is Amazon.
The president's comments on Amazon were also extremely telling because the president went into a lot more detail about the last mile delivery, which costs a whole lot more money than simply sending a package from, let's say, point A to point B, from one distribution center to another. That last mile delivery is often the most expensive and is the trickiest part of the equation. I do believe one day we'll have drones doing last mile delivery, as long as there aren't people who, shoot down the drones because they're flying over their yard. That's a whole different discussion. We'll be discussing that in a year or two, I think. But the conversation about last mile delivery and about Amazon essentially using the United States Postal Service to do last mile delivery is a completely separate topic of conversation. And I have covered that in another video on my channel, so you can check that out. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something new, please click the like button. Please subscribe and enable notifications so you get instant updates going forward. Also, I release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week. I really do appreciate you watching. If you want to get added to our mailing list, our SMS list, or our email list, send a text message with the word ignition or with the word time to 70,000. That's 70000. You'll get added to our text message list. And if you give us your email and agree to a quick disclaimer, we'll send you emails as well, and you can opt out at any time. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.